What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Goblin, and today we're coming in with a banger video talking about a nice little probation era re-up. I hope you guys enjoy this one. Drop a like if you do. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and also make sure to go follow me on Instagram at @TheGBLN. We have been posting a bunch of reels. It's been dope, and the reels have been doing really well. So make sure to go follow me on IG to get plenty more Goblin content. You can't miss it. Big thanks for that in advance, and without further ado, let's dive right into the video. Oh, actually, there is further ado, because it's 20% off merch for the next week using the code GOBLIN. All you got to do is head over to goblin420.com and enter the code GOBLIN at checkout, and you'll get 20% off your order of any size. There is no minimum order quantity or size, so you can just go pick up a t-shirt for 20% off or buy the whole damn website for 20% off. I don't care. Check it out. Head on over there. Big thanks in advance for the support, and a couple lucky people will get a voice message back from me with their purchases. Thank you guys for supporting, and now let's dive into the video. So this took place, like I mentioned earlier, back in the days when I was on probation in 2017. And this took place about halfway through my probation. It was right before the summer, if I remember correctly. I remember it was like May. So I was still fairly early into my probation, but I was a little far in enough to have realized that I was still able to do some drugs. I just couldn't do them very frequently, and I had to be smart about it. You see, the kind of probation I was on, as I wasn't on colors or something like that, where I would get randomly called in to get drug tested, I always knew about a week in advance when I was going to go in and be drug tested. So that usually gave me enough time to get things out of my system. However, the one thing that I couldn't do while I was on probation was smoke. And that really got to me because smoking was always my drug of choice. Weed was always the way to go for me. So as I got further into my probation, I started kind of experimenting and seeing how much I could push the limits and how many drugs I could do without actually pissing dirty. And the answer to that was quite a few of them. Now, it was a complicated situation also because my PO was aware of my channel. So it was a rough time. If you guys remember my 2017 videos, we were a clean little boy back then. I used to tell you guys I was sober on the channel. What a silly time. But during my probation, because I wasn't able to smoke weed, I ended up serving a good bit. You know, I realized that since I wasn't going to be able to smoke any of it, I could actually make some pretty decent money, and that I did. However, I decided to start serving other things while I was on probation. In particular, I sold a lot of Molly to my friend group. And today, this is one of those instances. This is one of those particular Molly re-ups that we're going to talk about. So, on this particular day, I was getting my day started, and I already kind of knew what I was going to get up to, you know? I didn't really have any plans for the day, but I had some money, and I wanted to get my hands on some goodies. Now, I already had a little bit of weed, but I had sold most of it, and I had decided that I wanted to grab myself some Molly. A, because I was kind of fiending for it, you know, I had really wanted to do some, and B, I was trying to venture off into new territories a little bit, you know? You see, I was never like what I would label a drug dealer, you know? I was never serving random people, you know? I was never spending my nights driving around town serving people, you know? I instead was just trying to make a quick buck while I wasn't able to smoke. I figured this was an opportune time to make myself some good money because every other time when I was younger and I had tried to serve or make some money hustling like that, I would always fumble it because I couldn't control myself and I would always smoke my stash or consume my stash or I'd do more than I sold every time. And that's just not sustainable, you know? But being on probation was a golden opportunity. It was a blessing in disguise because when I got off of probation about 5 months after this incident that we're talking about today, I had more money than I had ever had in my fucking life at that point. Granted, I blew it all within the next 12 months, but hey, we had a whole lot of fun doing that. So I woke up on this day and I already knew that I wanted to get my hands on some new goodies. And I had been talking to my homies a couple days prior about potentially going and grabbing some Molly, and I'd gotten some mixed responses. You know, some people saying, yeah, I can help you out. Some people saying they didn't know, and some people saying that they didn't have enough to serve me themselves. But Cody eventually ended up coming through for me. He hit me back and he was like, yeah, come through today. I could help you out. I know somebody I could put you on with, no problem. So I hop in my car and I ride over to Cody's on this fateful day. And it was an unusual thing because normally when I went to Cody's house, I was bringing my weed and we were smoking. But I brought no weed because I knew that I wasn't serving him anything and I sure as hell couldn't smoke. Cody's house was kind of a traumatic place for me at the time because I just kept having PTSD Vietnam flashbacks of me smoking blunts in there. So it was really rough. And Cody and I had been friends for a long time at that point already. We'd already known each other for a few years. We were good buddies and we smoked together damn near every day at that point in my life. So, it was highly unusual for me to be over there and not smoking. So while I was on probation, him and I actually didn't hang out very often because it was one of those things where it was like we were just doing very different things in our lives. So I had hit him up and he told me he could help me out with the Molly. So I rode over there and we're chilling and chatting for a little bit. And I asked him, I'm like, so, what's the deal with this Molly? Like, I'm trying to grab some. He's like, yeah, I got you, man. One of my brother's homies, like, he'll serve you some of that shit. Don't worry about it. So he hits the guy up, he calls him, and they're chatting on the phone a little bit. And he tells me, he's like, yo, he'll call me back in like 30 minutes. So we're just chilling out in his garage, chopping it up. And of course, this man's got the brewskis on deck. You see, Cody's dad is an absolute degen and always has a case of Busch Light, PBR, or a similar beer on hand. So obviously it was go time, I'm cracking these bad boys open and enjoying them because these were still the days when I was much younger and a PBR or a Busch Light was still viewed as a mid to high tier beer in my eyes. That was like a crown jewel to have. So we're chilling out, I crack a couple drinks and eventually his homie calls him back and lets him know that he's good to go. So he passes me the guy's Snapchat and he's like, yeah, just add him up. I guess they were talking on Snapchat or whatever because he was like talking to him on video call. So it wasn't a normal phone call or anything. But either way, I add the dude on Snapchat and damn near immediately this man adds me back. This dude was alert, prepared, and ready, all right? So I hit him up and I'm like, yo, bro, like, what's good? Cody sent me your way. And he's like, hey, like, what's going on, man? Like, let me know what you need. So I told him, I'm like, basically, I need some Molly. How much for like, I wanted to test the water. So I asked him how much for an eighth of it at first, because normally, listen, all right? I was a teenager in the suburbs of Chicago, okay? I was not getting fantastic Molly prices. However, this man didn't even have any Molly. He didn't even have any straight up crystals or anything capped up or anything. No, this man told me that he only had flats. Now, for those of you guys who don't know what that means, flats are slang for ecstasy. So this man had some nice little pressies. Now, normally, I wouldn't be a big fan of this. I have always been the kind of guy where I don't want to get the pressed version of something. I don't want the ecstasy. I want the Molly itself. God only knows what's in the ecstasy. God, like, who the fuck knows what's in those pills 90% of the time, And back in these days, I was not smart enough to use test kits either. So he hits me back and tells me that, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty straight. I'll take that. So we're chatting a little bit, going back and forth, asking about rates, because I didn't really want to quite tell him how much I was trying to spend, I more so wanted to try to get the cheapest, like, per flat price out of him. So we're going back and forth on Snapchat a little bit, and finally we make a deal. I was going to be grabbing 35 of these fuckers for $300, which I found to be a very strange number. Like, I don't really know how we got to that, what his breakdown was, where he's like, yeah, that's good, but 40 of them, no, I won't do that. I don't know. But either way, we agreed upon 35 for 300. So I was pretty content. I was like, you know what? That leaves me some wiggle room. And, my friends and I in our area, usually if we were buying some flats, we were going to be paying like 15 or 20 bucks a pop for the higher dose ones, or the ones that were allegedly higher dose, which is what these ones were. So I was happy with that price. So I tell him, I'm like, yo, slide the Addy. I'll pull up whenever. So he sends his Addy, and I tell Cody, I'm like, yo, I'm about to head out of here in a minute. I'm going to go pick these fuckers up. And he's like, bet, bro. Like, sounds good. Let me know how it goes. So I look at the address, and this dude's kind of far, man. This guy's like a 30-minute drive, a little more than that. It was like almost 45 minutes. And I said to Cody, I was like, yo, like, where the fuck is this dude, bro? Like, this guy's address is far as hell. And he's like, I don't really really know, dude. I don't know him like that. My brother knows him more, though, So I'm like, okay, like, fuck it. Let's go for it. So I hop in my car, I let the dude know I'm on the way, and I start riding over. Now, I pull up, and once I get there, I let him know I'm there, and he's in, like, this little townhouse neighborhood, right? I wouldn't call it a nice townhouse area, There were definitely some questionable folks in the area, but it was a townhouse in a neighborhood. So Plugman comes out and he hops in the car, and it's a pretty brief transaction. He hands me the bag, I hand him the money, and I'm scoping it out a little bit. And I will admit that these things did not look fantastic, And I remember I even made a comment about it to him. I was like, these presses don't look that great, bro. And he's like, oh, they're fire, bro. Don't worry about it. And one thing that I didn't understand when I was younger is that the quality of the pill, the consistency of it, the consistency of the color and the texture of it does not resemble or correlate with the quality of the contents, right? So if you have a pill or a Xanax, for example, or an ecstasy or anything like that, where the color's all consistent and it looks like it's a high quality press, the edges aren't chalky, that doesn't really hold very much correlation to the actual drugs inside and whether or not it's quote-unquote real. That only correlates to the quality of the pill press they used, which is something that I wish I understood when I was younger. Now, obviously, there are exceptions to that rule, but just because you see a pill that looks like it's well pressed or maybe professionally done doesn't necessarily mean it's real or contains what you think it does. I wish I knew that sooner, but either way, so pretty quick transaction. I throw him the money, he throws me the bag, and we go our separate ways. He goes back inside, and I dip on out. Now, at this point, I didn't go back to Cody's. I instead opted to just go back home for two reasons. One, I wanted to count these out and see if I got fucked or not, and two, I wanted to try one of these bad boys, and I didn't want to be sitting in a garage. I wanted to be chilling at the crib. So I went back home. And once I get back home, I sit down at my desk at my computer and I lay out this bag in front of me and I'm checking it out and I'm noticing that the pills really don't look very good. I said something about it even in the car, but as I'm looking closer at them, these things really did not look fantastic at all. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, damn, maybe I got fucked. But at the same time, I'm also thinking, well, Cody referred this guy to me, so he's got to at least trust him a little bit, maybe, I don't know. It comes to find out he was literally just some random guy that Cody knew who happened to sell. He was like, I hit him up about this later, and he was like, yeah, bro, my brother knows him. Like, my bad, I barely fucking know him. But either way, so I'm eyeing out these pills and they're not looking fantastic, but the count is right. All 35 are there, so I guess all systems are a go. I decide to immediately pop one of these bad boys down the hatch, and I did not break it in half like I should have. I just took the whole thing. Now, there's two things wrong with that. One, I don't know what the hell is in these, and two, I'm on probation. I don't do Molly very often, so this shit hit me like a truck. I'm sitting there, pardon me, maybe like 45 minutes to an hour go by where I'm just kind of vibing, pretty much just blowing time waiting for this to hit me. And it hit me. It hit me. This wasn't one of those things where I had to stand up to realize I was fucked. No, it just happened, dude. I felt my heart start beating, and I felt this weird, almost like awakening where my eyes opened and they felt like they were too wide open. I felt like I was physically incapable of squinting. And I remember as I was first coming up, I just kept wiggling my eyes around and shit because they just felt so funny. It was very different. Normally with the Molly come up, I get a feeling that's super familiar to me. I get it inside of me. I get it pumping through my veins. I feel the warmth. But this was different. I didn't feel the warmth going through me. Instead, I felt like my eyes were twitching, and for some reason, I couldn't feel much of my body below my knees. So I was starting to get a little bit concerned. I'm sitting there and I'm like, dude, what the fuck is this, So I decided to just let it go on a little longer. I'm like, well, it's just hitting me. Maybe I took too much. Maybe this shit is just very strong. So I'm vibing out for another 30 minutes, and I'm playing some video games, and I realized pretty quickly that this is not a normal Molly experience. After the first 30 to 45 minutes of coming up, I'm just feeling straight up uncomfortable. I was feeling, I had these cold sweats going where I just felt fucked. Dude, my throat was kind of dry, but it wasn't really scratchy. It felt like I was very thirsty, and I was sweating at the same time, so it was weird. It felt like the inside of me was dry and the outside of me was wet, and my eyes were all twitchy, and I fucking hated it. But mentally, I didn't really feel super different quite yet, you know? Like, I didn't really feel very different. I felt pretty normal, you know? So I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is the weirdest fucking shit ever, you know? Like, I mentally feel fairly clear-headed right now, which I guess, to be fair, on normal doses of Molly, you're not going to get super out of your mind either. But even then, I feel like I feel the dopamine flowing through my brain off the Molly. I feel like I just feel that warmth in my cranium, and I wasn't getting that. So I was starting to get a little bit concerned. I decided to do an old-fashioned test and start bumping some music, because when you're rolling, absolutely any music will do just fine. I mean, I will have Lil B's entire discography bumping on repeat when I'm rolling, and it's completely A-okay for me. Sober, that's not happening. So I'm playing like some random-ass songs in my recommended. I mean, I'm talking the first thing that appeared, I was clicking that shit. So it was no music that was on my playlist or stuff that I was really actively listening to. And honestly, I wasn't really feeling that into it. And that's when I really started to get concerned. I'm sitting there and I'm like, yo, what the fuck did I just take, dude? Like what is this shit? So I'm sitting there and I'm trying to figure this out, and I'm getting kind of overwhelmed, and my heart's starting to beat faster, and I'm starting to sweat harder, and I feel the sweat forming on my upper lip, and I say, fuck it. Let's get outside and go for a stroll. So I go outside and I go for a walk. You know, I head outside and I start walking around my neighborhood. And as I'm taking a stroll around, you know, I've got a lot of fucking energy going through me. Don't get me wrong. And looking back at it, honestly, there's a very good chance that this was probably meth. I don't want to say it for sure, but looking back at the effects, this was more than likely meth. And there's one thing that makes me say that above everything else, and that is this. So after I got done taking my little stroll, I went on a walk for like 30 minutes. Normally, I would just smoke a blunt to kind of calm myself down, but I couldn't do that. I was on probation. So I go back to my house, and I'm sitting in there. And I don't know what caused it. I don't know what made me realize it, all right? And this is some personal information, all right? So little TMI here, all right, for those you delicate people out there. I got ravenously horny, dude. I don't know where it came from, but yo, I'm not gonna lie, brother, okay? I'm gonna keep it completely 100 with you. Pornhub got some major play from me that day, brother. Major screen time, okay? I mean, they made some good ad revenue. They probably made enough in ad revenue off of me that day to pay their entire upkeep costs for the day. I'm not even kidding. I probably maintained all the servers with the amount of ads I was seeing that day. But listen, I was feral, okay? So I took care of that. We don't need to get into too much detail there, but I took care of that, and then I realized, I was like, damn, bro, this is really not Molly, because when I'm rolling personally, like, yes, everyone knows sex feels great when you're rolling. However, for me personally, I don't get horny. Like, I've never felt like that off the Molly, and that's when I realized. I was like, all right, bro, this is fucked. Like, I don't know what substance this is, but this is fucked. So after I took care of that, you know, I would say about 2 to 2.5 hours had gone by, and I was still feeling pretty amped up and pretty uncomfortable, but also weirdly clear-headed and functional. It was an odd mix of things. So I'm sitting there and I'm realizing, like, fuck, dude, I have 34 more of these things. What on earth am I gonna fucking do with these? You know, like I can't sell these to my friends. They're gonna kill me, dude. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, well, maybe I'm just tweaking and maybe this is really strong Molly. But then I realize I'm like, no, like I'm not even really getting the jaw lock very much. I feel like my jaw would be snapped in half by now if this was really strong Molly. So it couldn't be that. So I'm trying to rationalize in my head and I realize, you know, I kind of just got fucked. So I hit Cody back up and I'm like, yo, man, I called him and I'm like, yo, dude, like that guy served me some fuck shit. And he's like, what do you mean, dude? So I explained to him, I'm like, these pills look all fucked and I popped one and I'm not feeling right. Like this shit is fucked. And he's like, damn, bro, like that's fucked, you know? And he's telling me, he's like, yeah, like, let me talk to my brother real quick because, like, I don't really know him like that, you know? So I like, let me talk to my brother and I'll let you know. So he hangs up and he goes and talks to his brother and he comes back and he's like, yeah, all right, well, my brother told me that he could probably get your money back, you know? So I'm like, hey, that's what I love to hear, you know this guy better than me. That's what I love to hear. But also, I haven't even spoken to the actual plug yet. So, like, I appreciate the offer, but, like, let me just hit this dude up and see what's going on, you know? So I hit this guy up myself, and I hit him up, and at first I just say, yo, you know, I don't even say anything about the pills to bait him into responding, you know, get him in on the hook. Because listen, if you serve somebody and then they hit you back like an hour later, they're probably going to complain. So you can't say that in the first message. The plug knows that you're probably displeased. You got to bait him, hook him in, you know, don't let him know what you're hitting his line about. So he responds to me within the next like 15 minutes or so, and I hit him back with the second message and just lay it out. I'm like, yo, man, like, these pills are kind of fucked, bro. I took one and like they don't seem right. Like these are kind of trash. And I just said to him straight up, I'm like, is there any way I could bring these back to you, you know? And I was expecting a confrontation. You see, this is something plugs do not have a return policy, brother, okay? And most of them, if you ask about it, they're gonna probably get pissed. So I was expecting like, yo, this is gonna be an issue, dude. But surprisingly, he was actually cool about it. I hit him up, and he hit me back, and he was like, yeah, you know, like, I know Cody and them, like, you know, they're good people. Like, I got you, bro. You know, like, I'm sorry about that. Like, he apologized pretty profusely, honestly. It was one of those things where I was expecting a hostile response, but the guy was actually pretty chill about it, you know? The guy was pretty cool. So I was like, hell yeah, bro, you know? Hey, say less, dude. I appreciate that. So I let him know that I'm about to be on the way once again after I chill out a little bit more. You know, I asked him, I'm like, hey, is it cool if I pull back up later tonight? And he's like, yeah, no problem, bro. Like, just let me know. So I'm chilling, dude. I'm happy at this point. Problem solved. I'm getting my money back. Now I just have to wait to come down from whatever culmination of meth, caffeine, and 5 other amphetamines and potentially a small trace of Molly were in this pill. So I didn't realize how much time had went by, and I'm sitting at my desk downstairs, and my mom comes home. I was not ready for that. I had the whole bag of this shit just sitting on the desk. So I was able to luckily turn around and face her and kind of body block the bag sitting on my desk because I didn't really have time to put it away. The way that you know, my computer in the house was set up, she would come in literally right behind where my computer was set up at. Like, instantly, the moment she walked in the door, the first thing she saw was my dumb ass sitting there and facing away from her. So I had to like turn around and stay alert, you know what I'm saying? Now, I couldn't imagine the feeling of being my mother and coming home to her methed up son on a normal evening where he's just being an absolute idiot. And I feel bad for her, but I also don't think she understood that I was off the meth molly, so thankfully, things went pretty smoothly. You know, she just said hello and kind of went upstairs. At this point, she was still under the impression that I was sober, you know, because I was on probation. So I was trying my hardest to play it smooth, and this was probably the closest that I had come during probation to getting caught with any of this. I think this was probably the single closest incident on probation that I can think of right now, off top. There was a few times where I came close to getting caught fucked up or having something, but being on probation and being sober most of the time gave me some time to get smarter about these kind of things. So I got pretty good at avoiding my parents when I was on probation. Now, one of the really really weird things about this experience is I was sitting there waiting for myself to kind of come down, and that moment never really happened. I just kind of started getting a bit more used to it. I started realizing like, oh, maybe I'm not as fucked up as I really think I am, and I started calming down. I think I might have had some sort of mini panic attack at the beginning of it because this was just so different from what I was expecting to feel, but as time went on, I had definitely started to get used to it. So eventually, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just suck it up and go drop these pills back off to the plug. So I whip over there, 30-minute mission. This was a stupid idea. Never drive off any substance, especially the meth molly. But here I am, cruising off the meth on probation with over 30 flats in my glove box. Absolute genius plays. I get back to the plug and it's chill once again. He hops back in the car and I hand the bag back and he apologized to me again and dapped me up and everything. So I was pretty appreciative of that. I was like, you know, this guy's actually pretty chill. I'd never met him in my life. I don't think I ever met him again, but hey, you know what? He kept it real. Great businessman. I appreciate that, especially for me, someone who had never bought from him before. I mean, me personally, I probably wouldn't give that dude's money back. Like if he came to me about that, I don't know, bro. Maybe not, but either way, so I got my money back and we're all fine and dandy. I couldn't believe it, dude. This was like the only instance I can think of where I actually got a return at the plug store, dude. The single instance of it. So I went back home after this and I'm chilling at the crib, and I did fuck all for the rest of the night. But it was really strange because I kept like, I felt like I was sober mentally, but I knew that I wasn't. I had this pep in my step, and I kept going through these like different mood swings, and it was strange. Like I could think clearly, but my emotions were very weird. Like I was going through being angry about the molly to now really overly happy that I got my money back and super ecstatic. And I've just got this grin all across my face driving home with my refund as if that's something to be happy about, you know? Like, I don't know. It was super strange. I don't know. If any of you guys want to share in the comments what drug you think I accidentally did here, let me know, because I think it was meth, but I guess the world may never know. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Drop a like if you did. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out, y'all. Also, don't forget to head to goblin420.com and use code GOBLIN at checkout for 20% off all orders of any size or quantity. Big thanks for the support on the merch. A few of you guys will get some exclusive voice messages from your boy. And without further ado, that's the end of the video.